I'm Styles with Lucky Devil Comics. I'm the writer and creator of The Plague,
And I'm Nikki, a co-creator of the play.
and you're listening to True North Country Comics Podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to celebrate Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. On this episode, I chat with Styles Pacheco and Nicky C about the comic book series The Plague from Lucky Devil Comics. Based in Toronto, Ontario, Styles Pacheco is a writer and creator of The Plague and Lucky Devil Comics. With this imprint, Styles aims to create a universe of original, character-driven stories as a love letter to fans of comic books from the 80s and 90s. Nicky C, also from Toronto, Ontario, is a creative partner to Styles. With a sharp eye for visual art, instinct for mood and tone, Nicky helps develop the story's aesthetic, atmosphere, and the emotional depth of its characters. The story of The Plague goes like this. It's 2030 AD, and in New Orleans' decaying underbelly, Diego Marcus Diaz, a well-meaning but naive young man, uncovers a horrifying secret buried by his employer, a powerful corporation hiding horrors beyond imagination. But before he can expose the truth, Diego is betrayed and left for dead. But death was not the end. In a supernatural twist of fate, Diego rises from the grave and reborn as the Plague. So, without further ado, here's my chat with Styles Pacheco and Nicky C about the comic book series The Plague from Lucky Devil Comics. So, Styles and Nicky, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate your time. You're both from Lucky Devil Comics, so I appreciate your time in talking about your different activities and books and different projects on the go. But before I get going with all the questions, I would like to know, what was the first comic book that you read? And maybe I'll ask Styles to go first.
So I've been collecting comics pretty much as far back as I can remember. And I think my earliest memories of reading comics would have to have been Spider-Man. I'm not too sure which one, but I do remember reading Batman Nightfall as a young kid. And yeah, that story definitely stayed with me.
Yeah, in fact, at the time of this recording, I think they're going to make an animated version that's going to be adult. That should be something.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. How about you, Nicky? Do you remember what was the first comic book you read?
Basically, my older sister and my cousin, they would always pick up Archie comics. And so they had like a huge stash. And I'd always just read like the Archie comics. I never really got into like Marvel or other kind of things that are kind of like directed more to like boys and stuff like that. I was always into like more girly stuff as a kid.
Archie is definitely a popular book for folks growing up, but I'm wondering who or what inspires you to create today? And maybe, Nicky, I'll ask you to go first.
So I did have a phase where I was really into anime and stuff like that. And I wanted to do something that was like a manga, but that didn't really go anywhere. My husband has made me watch like a whole bunch of movies, Terminator and other classics. And so it was cool for me to get to experience those kind of movies. I feel like they have a lot more heart than I thought they would. I thought it would be all just explosions and things that didn't have much story to it, but I actually found that it actually did. So I feel like those kind of things inspire me now.
Great. How about you, Styles? What inspires you to create today?
Well, I feel like for me, I've got so much content just swimming around in my subconscious that it's like writing becomes like an outlet for me. Because if I don't get it out, it just kind of haunts me. I'll be kind of like staying up at night just thinking of stories, and for me, it's not just inspiration. It's kind of like an outlet. Like I have to get these stories out of my system, kind of thing.
Well, we're here chatting about your new comic book series, The Plague. So I'd like to ask you, how would you describe it to someone? Styles, can you tell me, what is the story all about?
So The Plague is a supernatural action and conspiracy thriller. It's really kind of a throwback to like the 90s. It's inspired by content like the X-Files, Swamp Thing, Spawn, and takes place in New Orleans, and it revolves around a character named Diego Diaz. And Diego is well-meaning, kind of naive guy, and he gets kind of wrapped up in this deadly conspiracy. Before he can go public and bring it to light, he's silenced. But there's a supernatural twist, so he doesn't stay dead. He comes back, and that's really where issue one leaves off.
Thank you for sending along that preview copy too, because that was very intense. And I could see some of the things you were talking about there too. I saw some Swamp Thing in there. I even saw like Ghost Rider and definitely X-Files too. So lots of good influences, that's for sure. How about the audience? Who is the audience for your story? Maybe I'll ask Nicky that.
I feel like anybody can read it. Like, even if you're not into comics, you can get into it, just like how anyone can go watch a movie. But I do feel like it's more targeted towards people who love things from the 80s and 90s, more retro, good storytelling. Yeah, it's very nostalgic in my opinion.
Now, Nicky, you're sort of like the main person who developed the story's aesthetic, the atmosphere. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your collaborators who helped you with this project.
The team is mostly just my husband and I. And I guess you could say that I'm kind of like an editor, critic. So I feel like a lot of...
Essentially, I'll write the story and I'll show it to my wife and she'll say, this sucks. Go back to the drawing board and rewrite it until she likes it.
Well, I'm sure it was a little bit more involved than that. Maybe you could talk about the creative process. Was it as simple as that, where Styles, you came up with the script and you said, okay, Nicky, you go away and do all the illustrations and I'll just wait till you're done. Is that the way it worked?
I feel like a lot of the imagery in the comic was my husband's vision. He has like a certain vision of how he wants everything to look. So even though it wasn't him necessarily drawing everything, I feel like a lot of the frames and all the other kind of stuff, it came mostly from him. And then sometimes I would put in my input, or I'd think, oh, we need something else here. Change the pace. We do work together, but I feel like the vision is strongly like my husband's.
Is that the way it is, Styles? Did you come up with a script and you said, okay, it's got to have this arc and it's got to convey these emotions and I want this sort of scene? Talk me through how you did it.
Yeah, so I mean, the whole process initially started with just a very loose sketch of a character. It was one of those things where, like, the more I thought about it, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. The whole process was about 3 years where I had written this story and I wrote basically like an overview of 100 issues. I know where I want the story to go. And I'm at the point now where I'm just kind of fleshing it out. Initially, it was just me. I was writing the story. I was in total control. Every now and then, I would just show my wife and get her input and see what she thought. But I think over time, she just became more included to now at this point where she's like 50% of the process. Yeah, I'm really glad that we did start collaborating more, because there's so many things that I think is cool or I think is a great idea. And when she comes and puts her angle or perspective on it, it's like it just amplifies it times 1,000 for me.
From where I sit, The Plague is a real suspenseful thriller action comic book story. And maybe you're bringing perhaps a little more nuance to it. Would that be true?
Yeah, I feel like, especially when you think about Diego and like Nina, for example.
I feel like you bring a lot more heart.
Yeah.
I feel like from my writing perspective, I'm so like just big picture. I'm always just big picture of what happens, key events that need to happen. So I feel like when you come in, it's kind of like you fill in those little details, like things I would never have thought of.
Yeah, they're just small details or just little moments between the characters, or like just little things that, he might not catch or that might add to the story. Yeah.
Maybe we could talk a little bit more about Lucky Devil Comics. This is the publishing entity for The Plague. Can you talk a little bit about that, how you came up with it and maybe the future plans?
Sure. So initially I was going to call the brand like Devil's Luck Comics, because my idea was like in supernatural, like folklore and superstition. They say you have to be really careful what you wish for, kind of thing. For instance, if you may wish for like $1 million, wish to be wealthy, and then one day you might wake up and you get it. But the catch is maybe somebody you loved, died and left you the insurance money. It's one of those things where you just have to be careful what you wish for. And that was just kind of a running theme that I had in mind. I guess it's just too many years of watching like Tales from the Crypt or something growing up. But yeah, this is a theme that I wanted to kind of play with. And I feel like it even seeps into the story of The Plague itself. Over time, I changed it from Devil's Luck Comics to Lucky Devil because I just thought it had more of a ring to it. What I would like to do is not just focus on The Plague, but kind of make like a whole universe out of it. Like I said before, I've pre-wrote 100 issues, and I created like 200 characters that are just sitting in a binder right now, collecting dust. So eventually I'd like to get to the point where we can realistically maybe release an issue bi-monthly and just pump out as many stories as we can.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive that you've got a backlog of stories already ready to go. That doesn't happen overnight. So that takes a lot of work. And to get them out to the public is yet another challenge, too. I'm sure you'll be able to do it. I mean, The Plague is a pure example of that. Maybe you could talk about the history of it. You were saying that you were writing for some time. Did I read that you had a Kickstarter for this book?
Yes, we did. That was launched last October. And it was the first Kickstarter we had ever done. We haven't ever done anything like this before. So the whole process was a learning experience. And we were really pleasantly surprised because you never know when you create any piece of content if people are going to care or if they're going to hate it.
Also, especially because the comic was only about halfway done. So the Kickstarter was really just to raise the money to finish the art. And so for people to take a chance on something that wasn't completed, they don't really know too much about it. It's really nice to see that people come and support and help it be made. It's nice.
Presumably, I guess you're pretty pleased with the result of the Kickstarter. Was it everything that you expected it to be from pure, not just financial standpoint, but feedback from readers?
Like I said, when you put something out, you never know how people are going to react to it. I'm a bit of a pessimist, so I didn't have great expectations. So after we had released it and sent it out and gotten the feedback, I was kind of blown away by how much people really enjoyed it because I'm a very private person. I don't like putting myself out there. I don't like putting my work out there. So seeing people really just delve into it and really love it, it makes me really excited.
And I feel like we're better prepared for the next campaign as well to fund future issues. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good feedback to have. It will inspire you for the future. And I'm sure there'll be lots more, as you said, books coming from the Lucky Devil Comics imprint. And speaking of future plans, can you talk about any plans to promote the book at any upcoming festivals or conventions?
So we are going to do a lot of conventions this year, and some will be in Toronto, but some will be like more on the outskirts, St. Catharines.
We're going to Barrie September 5th. We're going to Peterborough September 13th. We're going to be at the London Comic Con September 26th and 7th. We've got more coming up too, but we're going to wait a bit before we really announce those, set those into stone.
And speaking of events, I understand you were just appearing at the Kitchener Comic Con. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it, but heard it was a good event. Can you talk a little bit more of your experience there?
Sure. Yeah. So this was one of our earlier events that we had done. I think it was our third event. And initially it started raining just a little bit. So it got us a little worried, but it cleared up pretty quick. The day went on, it went so great. I mean, it was awesome meeting so many people and seeing so many people excited about comics. It was also great seeing other people's comics and creations and seeing what people are working on.
Yeah, and it was the first time Studio Comics was hosting something like that, I believe. And so I feel like everything went smoothly. There was also the cultural festival across the street. So I feel like a lot of people were out. As Del said, the weather became really nice. So it was just a nice day overall.
Yeah, Alfonso at Studio Comics Press, really good guy, knows his stuff. He knows what it takes to get a story across and how to promote people. So I'm glad you're able to sync up with him, that's for sure. One of the things, maybe I'll get your feedback on this. And I think as more generically, people are trying to get off of social media and get more involved in your face, in quotation marks, type of promotion. Do you find that might be helpful type of thing for the future of promoting your comic books rather than just spewing stuff online and hopefully someone sees what you're doing?
Yeah, I think so because I mean, right now we're experiencing such a oversaturation of content that it's like, even if you have a particular niche, like I do, there's so many things that I like, but it's hard to find anything because everything's just kind of lost in the sea. So I think going back to like our roots and just talking to people, getting word of mouth, I think that's something we've kind of lost that we need to go back to. Because personally, when I watch a film or read a new book or find a new comic that I'm really excited about, the first thing I want to do is tell my friends, tell my family. So yeah, that's something I think we need to get back in touch with.
What's your take then on the indie scene right now? I know you're in the indie comic books. Are you seeing anything out there that's sort of inspiring you to continue on and do more?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of interesting content coming out with the indie scene. In fact, there's a new book out that I just read recently from another fellow Canadian creator from Duke Electric. It's called Greg, The Delivery Room Massacre, and it's kind of a throwback to like a lot of 90s kind of off the wall stories. And yeah, I highly recommend that one.
And where's the best place for people to find out more about Lucky Devil Comics and your future plans, festivals, conventions, that sort of thing?
So right now, the best place for us is our Instagram, which is Lucky Devil Comics Official. And you can also find us at luckydevilstore.com, where you can find the Plague issue 1. And we have it in both digital and physical format.
Styles and Nicky, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering, is there something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across in this interview?
I'd just like to say, like, if there's anybody listening that has an idea or like a dream or even something that seems far-fetched, just start, because for me, this whole process just started with a sketch. That was it, just a sketch in a book, and then it just evolved over time in bits and pieces, and now it's kind of taken on a life of its own. I'm really happy with what we've created, and I'm really proud of my wife, and really happy to see that we're gaining a fan base and people are really loving this. So yeah.
Thanks to Styles and Nicky for the chat. You can discover more about the Plague at luckydevilstore.com and on Instagram at Lucky Devil Comics Official. And thank you for tuning in to the True North Country Comics podcast. I invite you to visit the True North Country Comics website to listen to even more conversations with creators about making comic books and graphic novels. Also, I urge you to sign up and subscribe so you can get notices about new interviews and news about Canadian comic book creators. You can follow along True North Country Comics on most social media platforms, and you're encouraged to send any and all feedback to John at truenorthcountrycomics.com. Thanks for tuning in, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2026.